I may have mentioned before, and it doesn't stop being true, that it's really hard to continuously criticize something that is so consistently good. Now granted, people should learn to be critical of things, especially the things that they like. Hence why I tore Dipper vs. Manliness apart for things that just didn't work for me in that episode. But every episode of Gravity Falls has been consistently good. Even that episode was a good episode, technically speaking. And from what I hear from some of you guys, the characterization of that episode is actually backed up later, so it becomes even more valid than I already thought it was. So I end up saying virtually the same things with each one of these reviews, and I'm not going to stop making them, obviously, because I know eventually stuff's going to start happening, like real stuff is going to start happening. But you're going to have to bear with me, because there's going to be a certain amount of redundancy in these videos, and I'm probably going to show that in my expression and the way I handle myself. That said, this wasn't my favorite episode of the show. I feel like this is going to be more like an average baseline of episodes of the show going forward. And I like the inconveniencing, for example, a lot more than this one, but this was still a really good episode. This is Double Dipper, the 7th episode of the first season, I think, where Stan rebuilds an old copier and Dipper, completely by accident, discovers that it now has the power to clone people. And this is the kind of thing that, rightfully so, he would never do. But then he has an opportunity to get close to Wendy, so he clones himself in an attempt to carry out this big grand plan to get to dance with her at a dance night at the Mystery Shack. And can I talk for a second about how conventional these plots are? Obviously there's a supernatural element to this because Dipper clones himself with a magic copier. But the plot itself, dancing with the girl you like, getting the girl you like to dance with you, and even the resolution that he didn't need a plan because she likes him for who he is the kind of thing that's been done 100 times before, if not more. And yet when this episode did it, it didn't feel stale. It didn't quite feel fresh either, but it didn't feel stale in part because it worked the supernatural elements in so seamlessly. These supernatural elements are just part of everyday life in the show, and that's probably one of the reasons I really enjoy it. Anyone who's been following my very sparsely updated Yu-Gi-Oh! Reviews knows that that's one of the reasons I like Yu-Gi-Oh! So much, because it's kind of the same kind of thing. Though the episode did get me thinking, and I was probably supposed to start thinking this a while ago, but it just now got me thinking, what is it about this town that makes this kind of thing happen? Not the dance thing, obviously, the supernatural stuff. What is it about Gravity Falls that makes the supernatural stuff happen? Because it's very heavily implied that this is just a Gravity Falls thing, that this doesn't happen elsewhere in the world. At least not to this degree. It's not all concentrated in one place elsewhere like it is in Gravity Falls. And I think it was something as mundane as a copier being the supernatural element in this episode that finally got me thinking about that. What is it about this place that when Stan put that copier back together, it started doing this? And I would imagine that we're going to get answers to that later on, so I'm not going to speculate here, but I just wanted to point out that that hit me in this episode. And of course, as usual, Mabel got her own plot in this episode where she has to deal with a plastic who is harassing her and some new friends that she's made. They have a singing competition where they parody Journey. They parody Don't Stop Believing. It was fantastic. And Mabel narrowly loses because the plastic cheated, basically. And they're setting up a rivalry between Mabel and this girl, and they've set up these new friends for Mabel, and I'm super excited about that because I love Mabel, and I liked her friends. They were both really cool people. And I think this other girl will make a good rival for Mabel. It's all very exciting stuff, but it was more setup than payoff here, so I am going to have to wait for any additional additions to this plotline. That could have been phrased so much better. If I could criticize this episode on anything, it's that the death of the clones was treated with a little bit of ambivalence. Is ambivalence the right word? It wasn't given the weight that I feel like it could have, but that was also the joke, and it was exactly the kind of dark humor that I like, so I actually found it really funny. But from a writing standpoint, technically speaking, the deaths of the clones could have been handled with a little bit more weight, so that is a criticism to be had. Otherwise, though, this episode was great. I really liked it. Like I said, I didn't like it as much as some of the other ones, but if I'm right, and this is going to be the feel I get from the average episode of this show, I'm super excited. Because this average is well above the average of 99% of shows on television these days, especially shows meant to be accessible by children. And I'm certainly glad it's out there for me to enjoy. But as per usual, I ask, guys, what did you think of this episode? Let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.
You're the one getting in your way. Why can't you just walk up and talk to her like a normal person?
Step 9, sister.